Wedge FM podcast, and we're talking to Kyle Katarn. How's things?
Hello there. Thanks for having me on, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, sweet. So tell me a little brief history of yourself, how you from way back when to up to now.
Well, a little bit about me. I am a Star Wars content creator. I've got a YouTube channel and an Instagram account, put out content related to all the Star Wars stuff. I'm originally from New Zealand. I've been living in America since about 2000 and onward. Hence, definitely have the American accent. But it's cool. It's nice to connect with someone from the old homeland, though. Kia ora, man. This is nice.
Yeah, kia ora back. Yeah, no, it's really good. And so how long have you been living in America for, exactly?
Going on 23 years now, and I was just a youngin', and I think at this point in my life I've lived in America for longer than I was in New Zealand.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I hit that milestone like a couple years ago.
No, yeah. Have you come back to New Zealand since then, or you just?
I'm coming back, and I've visited a couple times. When I lived with my parents growing up, we would take a family trip back to New Zealand like every other year or so. But then when I moved out, I had to pay for my own ticket, and I was like, oh, that's pretty expensive. So
yeah.
The trips became a little bit less frequent. I think the last time I went back was like 2005 or so. So it's been a while. While.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tickets are a bit of a pain, especially with having to pay for your passport and everything like that. So
the flight is pretty nice, though. I mean, it's a long one, but you get some champagne, you get Lord of the Rings. No complaints.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say no to that at all. Yeah, so you guys would be flying from Seattle to Australia, and I'm guessing then up to Auckland.
So there's a couple ways to go about it. The way that we would usually go was actually a direct flight straight from Seattle to Auckland, and you just kind of like sneak around the back of the globe. It's mostly over ocean.
Yeah.
23 hours, I think. Long flight.
Yeah. At least you get.
If you got the extended Fellowship of the Ring, you'll knock it out in no time. You're fine.
You'll probably just crash out and wake up and it's time to get off the plane. Sweet.
You're landing in Auckland and it's like, what? We just got to Rivendell. No, get me back on the plane. I gotta finish it.
Yeah. So that's all right. What got you into Star Wars in the first place? Who got you into it, or?
Ironically, I was like any other kid. I just, as soon as I saw it for the first time, it gripped me. Started like drawing. Some of my earliest childhood drawings are of like stormtroopers and Darth Vader and things like that. But I think it was in 1997 when Star Wars got re-released onto the big screen for like the special editions. That was my earliest opportunity to go see it in the theater. So I went with my dad to go see him. And this was before The Phantom Menace had been announced. We didn't know that there was a whole nother prequel trilogy coming. So this was kind of a last hurrah to go see Star Wars. And after that, I was definitely hooked. And ironically, I think it was moving from New Zealand to America that really cemented it for me, because it can be kind of an isolating experience to move, especially at an early age, all the way across the world to a completely different culture, a different continent. Didn't have any friends yet. I just moved them in an unfamiliar school, but I had my Star Wars books and I had my Star Wars like the VHS tapes and everything, and that was kind of like my constant during like a pretty intense transition. So I think I kind of just like dove headfirst into Star Wars at that point, and like read every little book that I could get my hands on, like watched the movies over and over, and then the prequels came out, and then I think there was no going back after that. Nice. Once new Star Wars was starting to get made again, I got so excited, and I just had to have it all, had to see and watch it all,
Yeah. For me, it was I was pretty young at the time, and I just saw it on TV, and I was like, oh, looks really wicked. Just got into that, and then met up with a friend at school, and we were nerds at school, looking at reading the Star Wars comic books and the those books with the behind the looking into the different ships and everything like that.
The Incredible Cross Sections books. Yes, yeah. I had all of those as well. I loved it. I loved the one, I think it's the Death Star, was so big it was like 4 pages and you had to fold it out in the middle.
Yeah, that one.
So many details really in it. That one was really, really cool.
Yeah. Those books were really good, and I think I had there was the Shadows of the Empire comic. It was like just a thick hard cover, and it had like the whole Shadows of the Empire in it, and that was pretty cool. And um, just trying to think. Oh, and then being able to play Rogue Squadron on PC,
Yes.
and also playing. Just trying to think.
I should
Was it
mention
Dark?
that the games were a big part of it for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Dark. Was it Dark Forces or Rebel Assault? Where you had to. It was first person shooter, and yeah, you're shooting
Dark
at everyone,
Forces.
and yeah, you got to fly the Millennium
Well,
Falcon.
Rebel Assault had a shooting part too, but it was like on rails.
Yeah, that's true. So I think it was Dark Forces. So that was really good, and yeah, and then
Love
the
Dark Forces.
but the newer like updated version of the Star Wars movies, they were good, but when it came to seeing Hayden Christensen instead of what's his name,
Sebastian
um
Shaw.
yeah, seeing him instead, it was a bit odd, but you get used to it after watching it a while, and then you're fine. But
And that
yeah.
I don't think that was a special edition change. I think that was a DVD version change.
Oh right.
Because
Oh
they
yeah,
went back and
yeah,
they changed it a second time. Because when the special editions came out, Hayden Christensen hadn't even been cast yet. He
yeah,
wouldn't be
yeah,
cast
yeah,
until many years later in Attack of the Clones. So I'm pretty sure it was like in the 2005 or so. I think it was shortly after Revenge of the
yeah,
Sith came out when they re-released the originals on DVD and they changed them yet again.
yeah,
And they
yeah.
went from Han firing to Greedo firing first to both of them firing and Greedo missing and like hitting all up in the corner. It just got
Yeah,
messier and messier.
that was really weird. Yeah, it was sort of like it's like other comic book movies where they just think change a little bits of it, and it's like, well, you could have just left it as is. It's better than leaving it original
Yeah, a
rather
little
than.
tweak here, a little tweak there. I don't know if you've seen Father Ted.
Yeah,
The one where they get the fancy brand new car as the raffle prize, and Ted
yeah,
finds a tiny little dent in it, so he gets his little hammer and he starts banging on it. And he's like, "Oh, almost got it. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more." And then it cuts to like an hour later, and the car is just like totally junked.
yeah.
That's what
Pretty cool.
happens when you try and fix your movie little bit by little bit. And it's kind of funny, honestly. I think that George Lucas would very much approve of what they're doing with the streaming service. And like when The Mandalorian came out, for example, there was an error in one of the episodes. I think season 2, episode 4. They're running down a hallway, and you see a guy wearing blue jeans, just kind of like hanging
Yeah,
off
oh yeah, I
the
remember
back
that.
corner. People started calling
On
him
the back, yeah.
Admiral Jeff Blue Jeans. I loved it. Well, he's not there anymore.
Oh
If you go
really?
back and watch that episode, they have removed him digitally.
Wow.
And that's like the most George Lucas thing I can think of, is that they have the ability to just go in there and change it, and like there's no evidence that he was ever there now, unless you have
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a bootleg or something of that episode. And that's
yeah,
totally what his philosophy was. Like, it's my creation and I can change it as many times as I want. And I think there's nothing wrong with having a favorite version of Star Wars. The problem for me right now is that physical media is so hard to get a hold of. Like, I can't get a DVD box set of The Mandalorian well, they just announced that they're going to sell them for the first time. But it's been
yeah.
how many years since The Mandalorian came out? And we're only
Mhm.
just now getting a DVD of this. Up until now, if I wanted to watch the original version, there would have been no way. And it's
Yeah.
kind of a moot point because I guarantee you Mr. Blue Jeans is not going to be on that DVD. Like,
Yeah, you'd have to probably find it in like on torrent, like a torrent of that actual copy.
exactly, some kind of a pirated copy of it. But it's nice having access to everything at the touch of your fingers on a streaming service. But
Yeah,
what do you do when the internet goes out? Or more importantly,
yeah,
and much more salient for today's environment, what if the streamer decides to just pull that title and not make it available anymore? For example,
yeah,
the brand new Willow series that came out,
yeah.
they've
Willow
pulled
got
it from
taken out.
streaming.
Yeah,
It's not available on DVD. There's no way to watch it. It's like they've created a scarcity. And
yeah,
I don't get the logic behind that. Like, sell DVDs if you're going to play fast and loose with what's available, because I want to be able to watch what I want to be able to watch. And if it's a
yeah,
consumer thing, if I got to pay money, I'll pay money to own it, and that's fine. but then you can't
Yeah,
take it
yeah,
away. You know?
yeah. I
That's
mean,
yeah.
yeah, Disney should actually have a part where if you want to own it physically or a digital version, then you could do that, or
Yeah, your
be able to.
subscription comes with a digital download pass or something.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah,
It's no different than Spotify letting you download music tracks for when you get on the plane, so you don't have to. So it's on your hard drive. It's
yeah,
still proprietary. They still own the content, and you're like they could have there's software in there, so you can't like copy it and distribute it among your friends. Whatever they need to do to feel secure with their product, but it
yeah.
shouldn't be tied behind my internet connection. If my internet goes down, I want to sit in the dark and watch Star Wars.
Yeah, or at
Don't
least
take
play
that
a
away
couple
from me.
games. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's really true. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking that would probably happen in the future. That Disney will probably come up with that. Hopefully,
It
if
sounds
they,
like they're moving in that direction. They announced it literally this week.
yeah,
Steelbook DVDs of Mandalorian season 1 and 2. We still don't have Clone Wars season 7. We still don't have The Bad Batch or Andor, Book of Boba Fett. None of them have even announcements of DVDs. But at
mm,
least they're starting with Mando 1 and 2. That's where the Disney shows. That's where the Star Wars shows started with. So maybe they're just going to go in release order like that.
yeah,
But it's taken so long. It's taken years. I'll believe it when I see it at this point. I'm very cautious. I want
yeah,
my physical media.
yeah, yeah. No, that's very true. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I'd believe it once it actually happens. If it's just the same as with all the other things that Kathleen Kennedy said about like Rogue Squadron
It's
movie
so
being,
easy to just say words, to just make an announcement and get people excited. But
yeah,
until you actually
yeah,
have something to show, it's just words. So
yeah,
many projects have been announced and then canceled, and we never saw anything from them. And
mm.
I'm sure that they all were in earnest, like projects they wanted to create. I don't think they were just trying to like maliciously cause hype just to take it away. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
until it's a sure thing, until you really have your foot through the door, don't even announce the project, because all it's going to do is create an expectation that you're not sure you can fulfill yet.
yeah, yeah. No, that's very true. And I'm just trying to think what the
Rogue Squadron is an outlier, though. I can't imagine anyone could see what Gina Carano pulled. Like, I don't think anyone saw that coming. And they had a
yeah,
whole
yeah,
built around her character being like in the center of it, and then suddenly she's gone, and that kind of had them scrambling a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
So I
I
feel like
think
there was a justified confidence in that announcement, and then things
yeah,
changed after the fact. But some of these things, like Skeleton Crew, for example, it's in the
mm,
can, it's ready, but instead of it's been delayed till next year, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because they're trying to build up a bank of content in case the strikes go on for too long and they don't have anything in production anymore.
yeah. I think that's the same for the Acolyte, isn't it? They've done
I
their
believe
first
so. I believe
season,
so.
I think.
Yes.
Is it a season, a TV show, or is it a movie? I'm not too sure.
It's it's a season. It's a season of TV, but honestly, I don't think it's incorrect to refer to it as a movie or any of these shorter streaming. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi was absolutely an 8 or like a 7-part mini movie. Like I
Yeah,
think that's the
yeah,
way they filmed them, and that's kind of the sensibility that they go with when they're designing how the episodes are going to unfold.
yeah,
Mandalorian was a little bit longer. That felt more like a TV show. Andor was absolutely like the old school proper TV format, and I think it
yeah,
really was successful for them. I think it really worked out well, and like Star Wars lends itself to that episodic storytelling. That's why the Clone
yeah,
Wars is
yeah,
so damn good. That's why Rebels is so amazing, is because that's really where Star Wars storytelling thrives. Um,
yeah,
and I think we should go back to that a little bit more. I'm enjoying the ones that feel like little movies that are chopped up into 6 pieces, and you're just like getting a little bit each week. But if it feels self-contained enough, like this was written to be an episode with a beginning, middle, and an end, even if it's part of an arc, like I find that more satisfying. I think Andor did that the best so far out of all the shows we've had.
yeah, yeah. No, that's very true. I mean, even the um, just trying to think. I was sort of thinking what would be really good is to um, allow them to film like a sort of an old film grade to sort of like for the past shows that they're doing, as we're in the few like the recent movie TV shows and movies just have that kind of the old George Lucas camera sort of film grade to it, the actual sort of filter.
I'm like they do that a little bit, and I really appreciate it when I notice it. Like they'll do like a silly wipe across the screen to transition from one scene to the other. Like that's straight up
Yeah.
70s George Lucas right there. It's like
Yeah.
there's no real reason to be doing that anymore because we have so many better transitions available. But it's absolutely just, to pay tribute to where it came from. And when they do that, I think it's the right choice, even if someone who doesn't have that context might watch it and think it's a little goofy or a little weird. I think that's
Yeah.
valid as well. A show shouldn't have to rely on previous stuff to be enjoyable. But if you are someone who's consumed it all and can catch all those references, it's the most rewarding thing. It's really gratifying when they just like give a little Easter egg here, a little nudge there, and you know exactly what they're talking about. It
Yeah.
feels like a reward, for doing the extra credit, for doing all your homework. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, no, that's
But
very
I don't,
true.
you don't look down on anyone who doesn't catch a reference because they haven't seen every episode of a totally different TV show. I don't feel like
Yeah.
it should be required, And I realize that, like for Ahsoka, for example, I can't even like imagine what it's like to watch this show without the context that I have. And so I
Yeah.
wonder about it. I'm like, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, but I wonder what people thought about it that haven't seen Rebels. Was this confusing?
Yeah.
Is it easy to follow? Like, it's hard for me to put myself in their shoes because I've seen that show so many times.
Yeah. I think it would be a good idea for Lucasfilm to make like a sort of a prelude, sort of short snippet of this is what happened, all these other shows, and then catches you up, so then you can go, okay, and now I can watch this episode.
Exactly. Every time they release a new series, it should come with a little primer that just gets you up to date.
Yeah.
I remember that when Obi-Wan Kenobi came out, it had a recap before episode 1 that was basically just Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
The recap was basically just the whole movie, and then they were like, all right, let's start.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Just watch the
more
whole movie.
of that, please. I don't know.
That's...
There's so many different kinds of Star Wars fans. There's Star Wars purists who are like 4, 5, and 6, and that's it. There's Star Wars completists is what I consider myself to be, where what really gets me going is when I see something from the prequels, something from the originals, and something from the sequels like sharing the screen together. Those are the moments where it feels like one galaxy instead of like these 3 separate trilogies of movies. And that's what I'm all about. So I love seeing like the mishmash of all the time periods and eras put together. So things like that is always really exciting. Like, and it can happen in small ways too. Like I remember when the Clone Wars, in 2008, when the Clone Wars movie came out, Burger King was giving away little like Happy Meal type, like just like toys, of the Clone Wars characters. But they also were giving away little original trilogy characters. But the action figures of the original trilogy characters have been made up to look like the same animation style as the Clone Wars.
Oh wow, that would have been weird.
Which has never existed. Like we never saw that on screen at any point. But like, there's a little Luke. There was like a Luke, a Han, and a Leia from A New Hope, but they look stylized like they were done for the Filoni show.
Yeah.
And that just made me so happy. I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is a way of showing these 2 eras next to each other. Like, as long as it all looks the same, like it's one galaxy.
Yeah.
So the sequels aren't my favorite trilogy, but I'm not bothered by them in any major way, especially when we get little notes of what came before. And it's absolutely dripping with like original trilogy references everywhere. I feel like they kind of played it a little bit safe and tried to avoid a lot of prequel stuff. And I'm not sure why, because in this day and age, there's a lot of love for the prequels, and I think it would have gone over just fine. But I think that speaks to the sensibilities of the ones making the films. JJ grew up with the originals, and he was in that generation that made fun of the prequels, even if he won't admit it was. And so I'm sure a little bit of that informed his decision of like, we'll talk about the Clone Army once and then just like move on and never talk about prequel stuff again.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's the same with me. The sequel trilogy isn't really my favorite, but yeah, I'm not bothered by it. I mean, Luke was, even before anyone knew about Luke Skywalker, they were all just wanting to know how he was able to get the Force and train so quickly, right? In the sequel trilogy, same with Rey and that as well. But yeah, if they sort of made a prelude beforehand of that, like what they did with I think it was the last movie. They showed what it was, what Ray when she was young, and that would
Right,
have been
right. We
that
finally
should
got the
have been
flashback.
yeah, that should have been the start of that should have actually been the start of the at least the a flashback in the first sequel.
It would have
Movie.
given you a lot more explanation. I think that what they wanted was it to be mysterious. They wanted
Yeah.
people to be talking about it and guessing and having theories about who she really was. And I feel like I'm bringing up Lord of the Rings a lot, but the parallel that I see is Return of the King, starting off with Gollum's little flashback. You know,
True.
like
Yeah,
like
no,
it
that's
we
true.
would have known him much more if they'd put that in the Two Towers when you first meet Gollum. But the fact that they made you wait until the whole next movie really gives you a chance to like sit and think and wonder about the character. You know. And so
Yeah.
I think that's really what they were trying to provoke is like not necessarily like have this huge profound backstory revelation, but to have as much audience discussion about her potential back. It's like JJ, he loves the mystery box, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing about the mystery box is that there doesn't have to be anything in it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I
It's
mean,
it's just like the whole X-Files thing. The truth is out there. They said the truth is out there for like 9 seasons, and then they're like, oh shit, we got to come up with a truth now. We've reached the end. They had nothing. They never came up with one. They just kept kicking the can down the road. And that's the danger of the mystery box is that like, okay, you've been building up this truth that's out there. Now you've got to deliver and you haven't even you've got nothing.
yeah, yeah. Even I think that was sort of the same with the when X-Files actually did a new season with Fulton's what was it what was this Fox and Mulder actually older and I think it was filmed in like in the early 2000s. I think it was like mid 2000s possibly.
You're talking about the movie they did, right? With Common, and it's like they got to
Uh,
solve murder in like some snowy place. I think it might be Alaska.
no, not that one. I'm meaning the actual TV show. They continued after the movies and the TV show.
That was
They
like
did another.
2014. Reese Darby was in that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like 2014. His episode was the funniest one, the were person.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
hysterical.
That
Those
was
were
funny.
always my favorite X-Files ones. Were like the monster of the week ones. The
Yeah.
government conspiracy stuff got old. It got kind of tired once you realized they didn't know what the truth was.
Yeah.
But like the
Especially
monster
with.
ones were always great.
Yeah, the monster one was great. I think even the ones with. I think there was one where the guy was. I think a guy was either levitating or was able to shoot out fire or electricity. I can't remember, but it was those episodes in X Files were really good. But yeah, so what does Star Wars mean to you?
In a word, escapism.
Hmm.
It transports you to this
Yeah.
galaxy. Like when you read a story or watch a movie, at least for me it does.
Hmm.
And if I'm stressed out or if I'm having a bad day, I'll like throw on an episode of the Clone Wars or something and like just it's such a cliche, but like just forget about my worries for a while, and just
Yeah.
enjoy the same thing that I've been enjoying since I was a kid. And I think that consistency really helps make it be such a comfort. But really, yeah, comfort and escapism and just like sheer unbridled just imagination and fantasy. I
Yeah.
don't I'm not a one-dimensional person. I like more than just Star Wars. I have many interests. All right. I'm a well-rounded human being, but I don't think anything reverts me into a childlike sense of wonder quite like Star Wars does.
Yeah.
I'm a grown man in my 30s watching these new shows on Disney Plus, and like I turn back into like a 9-year-old on the couch every time. And
Yeah.
nothing else has really ever performed that transformation for me before. And so that's why it's special. I don't really know. It's hard to quantify that into words.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's sort of the same with me. I mean, the only other show that would probably get me back to my childhood years would be Stargate.
Nice.
So if Richard Dean Anderson and Amanda Tapping and all those ones came back and did another another
Oh, that would
episode,
be
another
that would be
TV
so
series
cool.
that, yeah. So that would be,
There's a chance. There's a chance that's what's going on right now. Is they're taking all these classic beloved sci-fi shows and giving them like a final chapter, like Picard
yeah,
coming back to close out the next generation. That was awesome.
yeah, yeah. That was really cool, actually. I think they do. I think MGM is actually in the talks with, I think, Amazon, because I think Amazon Prime took over the Stargate or the MGM
All right. Well, if
acquisition.
Amazon makes
So.
more, get ready for a bunch of sex scenes and fart jokes.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
no,
gonna get
that's
the Rick and
very
Morty
true.
version of this thing. Damn.
Yeah, yeah, no, Stargate was one of my favorites. That's the next thing that was sort of my childhood. So Star Wars, Stargate, and they're both in space. So and they all have different spacecrafts and technologies. So
One of
so
the
that
going back to what I said about coming to America from New Zealand and feeling kind of isolated and watching Star Wars, I think the thing that I really took as a sign that like Star Wars is here for you, buddy. Doesn't matter that you're not in New Zealand anymore. Was that
yeah,
so? I moved in 2000, right?
yeah.
The next year they released the trailer for Attack of the Clones. And there's
Oh
fucking
yeah,
Tim Ware Morrison from Shortland Street. Now he's Django Fett. It's like New Zealand's coming to you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
loved it.
It was really. I think everyone actually laughed their heads off because I don't think there were many New Zealand actors in any movies that much.
What a breakout.
But
What a big role. It was great.
yeah, especially when he was talking to Daniel Logan as Boba Fett, talking New Zealand slang. It's like, all right, that's pretty sweet, and then becomes a meme and then blows up. But no, it's great. It was good seeing other New Zealand actors. I think
There's a
since
ton of New
then,
Zealand actors in Attack of the Clones. I noticed that. I'm wondering what the connection is there. Like half of Padme's security staff are Modi. I noticed that too.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
all these actors are in this movie.
yeah. Even Jay Leguy, he was in Shortland Street before he got into Star Wars and all those other. He was in Australia, so most of the prequel movies were filmed in Australia. So
That
most of
explains it.
them were. So yeah. So I think because I know for a fact Attack of the Clones was filmed over there, and that's when Hayden Christensen got it to do his role, and I think that was the same. I'm not too sure if it was the same for the Revenge of the Sith or not, but
It might have been.
yeah,
I think Revenge of the Sith was England. I think that was Pinewood
yeah,
because I noticed that the following movie didn't have as many New Zealand actors in it because I was paying
yeah,
attention.
yeah. It was the same with I think the Phantom Menace that was filmed over in England and also Italy, and I'm just trying to think other places that
Yeah, oh
was
yeah, they
filmed.
were all over Italy for Naboo.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then of course Tunisia for Tatooine.
yeah, that's true. So that was yeah. So since I think Attack of the Clones was definitely where all the New Zealanders came to Australia and right, let's get into this movie. Sort of felt like it anyway, but it was really
And
good.
they all came home and became Riders of Rohan the next year.
Yeah, they did too. Yeah, I actually got to be in the Lord of the Rings movie as an extra.
Oh, awesome. That's great. So did my
Yeah, so
aunt.
I was in the first well, actually all three of them. So, but I didn't get to be in any of the Hobbit movies, so that sort of sucked. But oh well.
My aunt
And
Zoe worked on the production and she was a stand-in a couple times. And the year we left, it was like a couple months before we left, she
yeah,
told us that she was working on an adaptation of The Lord of the Rings and that it was going to be huge. And then we moved
yeah,
away. Then the trailers came out, and of course they're fantastic. And the movies were huge in America too. And I remember
yeah,
thinking as a kid, I was like, I should have stayed, man. I could have been an adorable Hobbit child. I could have been
yeah,
there. Infinitely
yeah,
jealous. One of
yeah.
these
No,
days, I'll chat up Peter Jackson and be like, "Hey, man, what are you cooking up?
yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
size
That'll be pretty
13. If you
sweet
want to make me
actually.
some Hobbit feet."
Yeah. So yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and same with the the Lionel Witch in a Wardrobe. I was in that movie as an extra.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was when they filmed the what was it? The Aslan's camp in the Hidden Valley in Oamaru. So
Sure.
South Island. So that
All
was
the
a
most
lot of
lush,
fun.
beautiful countryside. You got to go to New Zealand for your shots.
Oh yeah.
Rings of
Actually,
Power just filmed there, right? I know that they've moved
Yeah.
their production to England since, but that was a huge production.
Yeah. First season was over in here in New Zealand, and then they moved over to England. So I was like, well, that sort of sucked because New Zealand's the home of, it's pretty much it is exactly Middle Earth. So
Like
I don't know
New
why.
Zealand doesn't own Middle Earth, but they do. They own Middle Earth.
Anyone that comes to New Zealand, they're like, oh, Middle Earth, and we're like, yep, that's us.
It's the only way to get authenticity for your Middle Earth shots is to travel to the real Middle Earth. Clearly.
Yeah.
I heard that like a double-digit percentage of the film industry of the country was involved in that production. Like no one else could get a crew together to film anything else for the entirety of it because everyone was already working on this one production.
Yeah,
That's
even
nuts. I don't think even Peter Jackson's films was that much of a draw on the industry. Like other things were in production at the same time, right?
Yeah.
That's Amazon for you. They just go overboard.
Yeah.
Above and beyond.
With the Lord of the Rings, I think they all filmed them simultaneously. As far as I'm aware, they filmed them like one crew was in one area, one was in another, and so they all did that, and so that was pretty. Was it the second and third one they made? Is like, I think they filmed them both at the same time. I think, not too sure with the first, but
I know they filmed a lot of continuous footage. Like there's moments that were clearly filmed for Return of the King that get put into the Two Towers and things like that.
Yeah.
And pickups and reshoots went right up until release. I remember that from watching the appendices. Like they were editing it while the trailers were out, and like people were beginning to camp out for the theater, and they're still working on the thing. Like really went down the fire.
Yeah, that's Peter Jackson. He just goes hard and
hey, he got it. He got it done. He came close, but he got it done.
Yeah. So I think he's sort of the next sort of like George Lucas sort of, and in the fantasy aspect. Peter Jackson, I think he helped with the motion capture even a bit more than what George did. But even George Lucas's motion capture for Jar Jar was actually pretty top of the line. No one else ever.
It was groundbreaking for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I like to say that Jar Jar walked so that Gollum could run. You know.
Yeah.
Although really, Gollum just crawls.
yeah, Gollum, and then the same with all the Planet of the Apes.
I was about to say, that's
all
and
those
King Kong too.
King Kong,
He just loves being creatures.
And the same with Tintin as well. The action that the CGI animated movie was actually motion capture as well. So
that's cool.
So that's
I
cool.
didn't actually know about that one, and I saw Tintin not too long ago. I really enjoyed it. It makes a lot of sense. I thought the motion was so fluid in that. That makes sense for this motion capture. Cool.
And then I think even Peter Jackson helped. What's his name? Block Camp, I think, the one that did the
Neil Blomkamp?
District 9. Yeah, he did District 9, and so Peter Jackson's helped him with the CGI and that, and then what's the other movie that Peter Jackson...
That was a fascinating film. That was a very creative sci-fi. It didn't go in the direction that I thought I was going to. I'm still waiting for that sequel.
Yeah.
Still waiting.
I don't know when that's going to happen, but yeah, that would be pretty cool if they do a sequel, because that movie was sort of like a mockumentary / movie combined. So it was pretty cool, actually.
It was a pretty serious sci-fi topic, but they didn't take themselves seriously while they were talking about it. And I think that's the perfect balance to strike. You need a little bit of humor if you're going to talk about a serious thing, because you need the pill to go down easy, you know?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, science fiction should never take itself ultra seriously. I think
Oh,
that's when you create a fan base that takes itself ultra seriously, and that never ends well.
yeah. Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
the
true.
opposite with Star Wars. I embrace the campiness and the goofiness and the silliness and just the downright weirdness of it all. Like for me, a
Yeah.
quintessential Star Wars involves a guy in a really goofy rubber alien head mask that's all floppy over in the corner, drinking a blue milk
Yeah.
or whatever. While like, it's totally ridiculous, but that's like
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect, you know?
Yeah. No, that's really true. And yeah, the TV shows, the Mandalorian was one of my favorites. The first two seasons were really good. Third
Same,
was
same.
the third season they dropped the ball a bit, but I think that was because they were just putting all of their eggs into Ahsoka, so to make it even better. So
You can
that's
tell that all of these shows are being produced in like the same space with the same resources, and it kind of can be, you can tell when like the focus gets shifted from one show to another, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Like you said, seasons 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian, they were laser focused on this particular show, and by the time
mm,
of season 3 the focus had shifted on to Ahsoka and perhaps the Acolyte and the Skeleton Crew. There's so many other things in production.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think
I
the
think
first two
even
seasons of The Mandalorian were strong enough to give them the confidence that, like, okay, The Mandalorian can kind of just write itself at this point. Let's work on
yeah,
Ahsoka. Let's perfect Ahsoka. And could it have used a little bit more love and attention? Probably. I still enjoyed it. I thought that the in the finale, the huge, I call it the cavalry charge, but really it was just jetpacks on jetpacks meeting in the middle.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was so cool. That was
That was
literally
really
me
good.
on the floor as a kid playing with my action figures, just banging them together
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the air. Like
yeah,
that's what was going on in my head. They were able to paint that picture for me. So that was
mm.
pretty awesome. The
Yeah.
thing
That's what
about the
I.
first season that I like the most though is that it's so slow and that it's not grandiose. So we don't have Luke yet and we don't have Jedi, and it's just this random bounty hunter walking through the streets. You get to the camera really lingers. You get to see all the stuff that's happening in like these really rich environments.
Mm,
That's
mm.
what I want out of Star Wars. I want like the weirdness, sure, but also like slow down, like, and let us take in what's happening around us, because so many, like the set decoration is so incredible. They put so many
Oh
little
yeah.
things everywhere that you look, but they
Mm.
never give us time to look.
Yeah,
It's always,
that's
oh no,
true.
we're being chased, we got to go, the plot, the plot, the plot. But you got to breathe, you got to stop and catch your breath. And season 1 of
Yeah.
Mandalorian was great at that, and that's why I actually prefer it over season 2. Everyone likes
Yeah.
season 2. We got Luke, we got all the cool crazy stuff, and it was amazing, but it
Mm.
moved way quicker than season 1.
Yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
it slower. I like it a little slower.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the same with me. I do like it slow, but not too slow. Like the
No, you don't want it to drag, for sure.
yeah. Yeah, so I think that was sort of the same. That was with the third season sort of dragged a bit, and um, but I think yeah, it should have been more just about Mandalorian himself, but then they were like, well, we can make it Mandalorians as in
Right. I kind of
his
sensed that was going to be the direction they were going to go with.
yeah
Din
yeah
Djarin, I
so
think I think he's still the main character. I think the cast is just kind of, it's turning into an ensemble show instead of like a
yeah
lead show kind of thing. Totally.
yeah it's sort of like sort of like Rebels or even the what's the other what was
Clone
the
Wars? Oh,
Resistance.
Resistance. Sure, sure.
Yeah, so they had all different people and different stories, or even a little bit of the Bad Batches, like stories from other people's point of view and
Sure.
everything else. But um,
I can't help but notice that the two most popular Disney Plus shows right now are both led by Mandalorians. All right, we got Sabine
yeah,
Wren and we got Din Djarin over here.
yeah, yeah. No, it
Mandos
won't
is what
be
the people want.
won't be long until Din Djarin and Sabine collide in the last
I
in
very
the
much hope to
movie.
see that meeting. I hope it's on screen. I hope it is in the movie. That would be a very cool thing.
I
Do you
think
think we're going to see Luke? Do you think we're going to see Luke in Ahsoka?
mm, that one
He
I'm not
does
too
see, he
sure
does
about.
seem to pop up these days, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know he'll definitely pop up in the movie. That I do know. The TV show, maybe the last episode, possibly.
It would make sense for them to contact him, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah.
At least maybe he won't step in, but they could at least give him a heads up that there's like some Dark Jedi business going on.
Yeah, yeah. I think I definitely think he should show up, but even it'd be good because we never got to see how Luke and Ahsoka finally met up and
it's true. Their first meeting hasn't been revealed to us yet, and I don't know if the Book of Boba Fett has already taken place at this point. The Ahsoka show's after everything else we've seen, right?
Yeah, yeah. As far as I'm aware, but then again,
it would have to be a flashback then if we were going to see their first meeting in this show.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what happens? She meets up with Din Djarin, then she goes on to this show. Maybe she does meet up with Luke halfway through the show or near the end of the show for that part, which then will connect to the second season, which then should connect to the movie. So
I think she's already met Luke when Din Djarin first meets her.
True.
I think she's already met Luke, and she's doing she's searching for Thrawn, and she was fighting Morgan Elsbeth, and I feel like she would have already made a connection with Luke. Like that would have been one of the first things she did. It's been years since Return of the Jedi. Like that's a lot of time and she has to know who he is and that he's out there at that point. He's famous. Yeah. So it would be weird to me if she took that much time to seek out the son of Anakin Skywalker and like make a connection with him. Yeah. Although now that I say that, like it could be a really difficult thing for her to do. And so it like took her a really long time to like drag herself to go meet this guy because it's such a painful memory, you know? Either way, I want the story. Whichever direction they take it in, we need to see that story because that's excellent.
I mean, even if I think the only way that she possibly could have known about Luke would have been either through the stories or maybe Anakin possibly talked to her via just the voice itself.
It's possible. Maybe. It's possible, but that's definitely a thing. They need to show us. That can't be an off-camera. Oh yeah, that's right. I had a conversation with Anakin once. It's like, how dare you? You have to show us.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally understand that. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much they could do. I mean, even I'm trying to think in the not the Clone Wars, the Rebels. Did Rex, apart from Rex, who else survived out of the clones? I'm just trying to think.
Rex and Wolf both survived. Gregor was the one that died.
Oh yeah, Gregor. Yeah. So he's the.
And technically Kix survived too. But he's not going to get thawed out for quite a while. Yeah.
I'm wondering because that would be pretty cool if they did an offshoot of, like, even with the skeleton crew, they could probably bring the clones back. Or even what's her name?
I loved the clone that they brought back in Obi-Wan, the homeless clone. And they got Templars to play him. I thought that was great. That was perfect.
Yeah, that was really good actually. That was
reminding us that like just because their era is over, there's still clones like scattered around the place. Most of them aren't doing very well, but we don't have to wait for a Clone Wars era show to get some little clone action like we could get it in the originals, you know? Rex is out there somewhere.
Yeah. So I think they should do like an offshoot, or like even have them as a cameo either in Ahsoka. I'm guessing they should have at least Rex in the Ahsoka TV show.
First season. If they're going to bring him in at any point, it would be this show. I don't know who else, what other character he would have a close enough connection to be in their show. You know, it would be here. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, even if they did
my fingers are crossed that we're going to get Rex, but I don't want to set expectations for myself because that's how you get disappointed.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to myself. I've been hurt before.
Yeah. Star Wars is more Disney's hurt us a lot with so that's not sort of sucks. But I think even if they did a flashback of Rex and young-ish Ahsoka, that'd be. But then if they're wanting to bring the, oh, but then again, Temuera Morrison is probably the age of what Rex would be in the timeline at the moment.
Honestly,
so,
yeah, his age works out just fine because the clones age so quickly.
Yeah.
So Rex would be pretty old.
Yeah, and even trying to think the what am I trying to think? The in the Bad Batch, the what's her name? The sister of the clones.
Omega.
Omega.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be cool to have her as a cameo in either this show or
It'd be great if Omega was played by Daniel Logan in a blonde wig.
that would be funny. Yeah. Or even
he wants to come back into Star Wars so bad. That'd be so funny if they were like, "Hey, we finally got a role for you. You're not gonna like it."
That would be
He'd love it. He'd excel. He'd do a great job.
I mean, they'd get the girl to she's even the voice of Omega is Kiwi as well.
Yeah,
so Michelle
Ong, right?
Yeah. She was in what was that TV show? The Tribe, I think it was. It was New Zealand Tribe. It was like based on like Armageddon sort of thing, and
cool.
Kids so she was in that. That's all I remember from. Oh, and Shortland Street. I think she was in like a couple episodes.
Are you really an actor if you haven't been on Shortland Street in New Zealand?
No,
you kind of have to do it. You got to do it at least.
Yeah, I was in Shortland Street as an extra as well. So.
There it is. See, there it is.
So that was actually my first. that was my my first time being in on a. No, it would have been my second time being on a TV show.
If I hadn't moved away from New Zealand, I would have been on Shortland Street by now too.
True. Yeah, so it was good being on that. But yeah, I was in other like Scarfies, and I think there was a White Fang TV show that was filmed up in Arrowtown. So that was another. And then there was the what was that? Squirt, which was the New Zealand kids show with.
I remember Squirt.
Yeah. So that was another motion capture as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The penguin was had a headset motion capture for the head of the penguin. So that was pretty cool, and I think for the hands as well.
That must be a more recent version of Squirt, because the Squirt that I remember, that was like some early CGI. I'm thinking like 1995, 1996. That's when I saw Squirt.
Yeah, that's
really
exactly,
that was motion capture.
Yeah,
wow.
That was motion capture.
Wow.
And I think that's what got.
That's so impressive to me. I had no idea.
Yeah, that was pretty good work actually. So yeah, I because my dad used to do sound for around New Zealand, and he got to be on the got to work for the show, and so I got to find out and got to be good friends with Ian Taylor, who did Taylor Made Television and all those bits and pieces, Squirt, and I think he's done the graphics for the PGA and yachting and all that sort of stuff as well. So so that I think because of George Lucas being a catalyst of everything, even miniatures as well. Rubbed off onto Peter Jackson, who then came up with the a better motion capture for creating Gollum, which then, in result, did all the other movies.
It's just one great big cycle of creativity and innovation. It's awesome, and that hasn't slowed down. Like every Star Wars property invents something. It's not just that they redefine something; they invent a new strategy or technique to create what they're trying to create. Like the volume, for example. Wasn't strictly created for Star Wars. It was kind of conceived of when Jon Favreau was doing The Lion King.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is really where they put it into practice and like brought like really tweaked it into what we now know as the volume. So
Yeah.
it's a very powerful tool. Some people don't like it so much. I think it has to be used as a tool. It's not like if every single
Yeah.
scene is just shot on the volume, you're going to be able to tell. But
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
situations, the volume is just so perfect for it. Like shots in Ahsoka where they're sitting in hyperspace and Hu Yang's
Yeah.
practical body has real hyperspace streaks reflecting off of it in real time.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah. No,
insane to have to try and like get a CG artist to throw those reflections in after the fact. Like,
yeah, that would have cost a way too much money for them to do. I mean, that.
yeah, it's such a great innovation. The volume, I'm pro volume. I'm also pro physical sets and miniature work wherever possible. I think that it's a mix of all of that that gets you a good product. You can't go all into one category.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they certain shots in the Mandalorian of the Razor Crest were filmed on motion control rigs the old-fashioned way. Like that's so cool.
Yep.
It's so cool that we're
really
still doing
wicked.
it the old way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's what sort of gives Star Wars that credibility, that sort of feeling like it can be come into reality. And I think with the miniatures, the stock action motion, the green screen / CGI, which now has been the volume as well, plus the practical and the physical sets, those have all culminated into what we know what Star Wars should be, and even the Force and lightsabers.
It's become a necessary part of the DNA. You know, if you made a Star Wars show and it didn't have anything physical in it, something would feel wrong, you know?
Yeah.
The fact that when we get a new monster on a Disney Plus show and it's actually stop motion, like not only that, but sometimes it's stop motion made by Phil Tippett, who did the original stop motion for like Return of the Jedi. Like, it's so cool. How can you not respect these shows when they are made by the same people that made the Star Wars that we love, you know?
Yeah.
Every single time, as a sound designer, Matthew Wood, I'm like, it's fucking General Grievous doing the sound on this thing. How can you complain about it, you know?
Yeah, and the droids as well. Yeah, he's done a whole lot of voices for everything, really. But yeah, he's really
I love
good.
his battle droid voice. It's my favorite.
Yeah, the battle. He's done so many battle droid voices for, well, especially the cartoon as well. And the droids are the most fun. I think they're if there was no Jar Jar, then the droids would be the comedic
definitely
solution in that. So
I think he probably has the second most roles in Star Wars after D. Baker being all of the clones.
Yeah, no, that's very
like
true.
I think they are definitely the top two on the list there.
Yeah. I think
unless there's anyone else that's been a million voices.
Sam
Witwer has done a million little like glup shittos here and there. He's probably high up that list too. Like total number of characters voiced.
Yeah, and the same with the guy who does the voice of the Clone Wars Yoda. He does the voice of Yoda, the storyteller at the start, and
Tom Kane, Wolf Yularen.
Yeah. So
he's no longer voice acting. He suffered a stroke, I think it was, and it's affected his. It's very sad.
Yeah, it's
always a treat when you play an old Star Wars video game, for example, and like Tom Kane pops up. Like he's all over the Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah.
For example, which is a couple of years old now, and I'm playing it for the first time. But like it's so cool recognizing these voice actors. Like Vanessa Marshall and Steve Bloom are both all over that game too.
Yeah.
I'm hearing Hera and Zeb like where I go.
Yeah. Even I think Steve Bloom has done a few other voices apart from Zeb as well, I think, as far as I'm aware.
He's like Stormtrooper number 6 here and there all the time. He's another one just like Witwer. And can you blame them though? Like you get like any sort of a sizable role in Star Wars, and now the door is just open. Every time Star Wars is happening, like, hey, do you need an extra Stormtrooper? Do you need a Rodian in the bar?
Yeah.
Like, I would be that guy. If they gave me any sort of a crumb, they would never be able to get rid of me. I would be blowing up the phones nonstop, like, hey, do you have anything for me today? So I get it.
Can I be a cable
grip with that impulse?
Yeah, I'd be I'd probably do the same actually. If I ever got any chance to be in work in the Star Wars TV shows, I would just keep on hounding them until they give me, even if it's can I grab your coffees? Or
Seriously.
Be a be a be a stunt person. Get hit
Work your
for
way
no
up
reason.
until eventually you're voicing a character and you've got like an action figure that looks like you.
Yeah,
That's when
that'd
you know
be
you've made
wicked.
it.
That'd be sweet. That was what's his face? The guy who I'm trying to think of um the Rogue Squadron. What's his name?
Wedge?
No,
Wedge
no,
Antilles Rogue Squadron?
no. I'm meaning the oh, sorry, not the Rogue Squadron. Republic Squadron. Trying to think of the guy. Who went to see Din Djarin and talked to him about.
Oh, Carson Teva.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was just a cosplayer and fan of Star Wars before but he was still an actor as well, but
Yeah, oh yeah. He was on Kim's Convenience.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. And so yeah, so it's pretty much the same as him. He was just a fan, and now he's got his own little action figure. So that's when you've just made it definitely made it in the Star Wars. I think that's the same with
It's the benchmark for success.
yeah, it's the same with I think Keisha. I don't know if Keisha Castle Hughes even got a. Oh no, actually, Revenge of the Sith. Parts of it was filmed in Australia as well, actually, because I can remember that.
I do remember her being
Yeah.
the queen. Yeah.
Yeah. So Keisha Castle Hughes, yeah, so she's been in a few New Zealand movies and TV shows and all that. So
My mom taught her in school.
oh really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
back in the day, back at Penrose.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I think that was even a name of a general store in New Zealand as well. Penrose.
Oh really?
Yeah, because there was a building down here in Dunedin that was it was called the Penroses building. And
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, Penrose College. I'm pretty sure it was in Auckland.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that retail franchise began up in Auckland and traveled its way down. So there's been lots of New Zealand actors and actresses that have done either voicing, stunt work, or behind the cameras, even being acting as well. So
I've actually said several times that I think Keisha Castle Hughes would be perfect for a live action Omega.
Yeah, well, that's what I was sort of thinking. She'd pull it off completely, and even
she's already been in Star Wars, but she can get another role. So many people have more than one role. Why not?
And they could probably just cast a few of the other clone troopers that were in the what was it? Was it Utapau? No, not Utapau. Oh, why's my brain going to mush?
I've been really enjoying all the memes of a bunch of photos of young Temuera as the Bad Batch. They got one of him from Shortland Street where he's wearing the glasses and they made him tech. He's God, he can't be older than 25 in that photo. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Enjoy that very much.
They'll be able to get other New Zealand actors to pull that as sort of lookalikes of Temuera Morrison that could pull off the Bad Batch pretty easily. They could turn that into an action adventure movie.
I would love that.
Or a TV show. So that'd be pretty cool actually. What I do love
he's
about
getting on in years now, but I think Lawrence Mahuere would be an amazing wrecker.
Yeah.
He'd be really
that's
good.
true. Because he's been in all of the Lord of the Rings movies as well, actually.
Yeah, he totally has, yeah.
And he I remember the time when he headbutted Orlando Bloom. Okay. Made him a bit blind because it was a bit of whack.
That was that was their stunt guy greeting for everybody.
Yeah.
And he headbutted Vigo on the red carpet too, and all the reporters were quite shocked.
Yeah. So that's pretty funny. And the same with there's a New Zealander that's in the the what was it, Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, I haven't seen that
Yeah.
yet.
So there, the Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw movie. That was there's been, although there were a lot of
I have
New
noticed that there are New
Zealanders.
Zealanders everywhere, and that
Yeah.
my theory is that there are more New Zealanders outside of New Zealand than there are in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Everywhere I
Oh
go.
yeah.
Like a traveling people, got to see the world. I've encountered them everywhere I go. Love it.
Yeah. There's the same, like even Dwayne is from New Zealand as well, so it's it's a small world. Everyone's sort of branching, going off to America and everywhere else, and it's great. And the same with like everyone knowing the All Blacks. That's sort of a good thing to know. So that's great. Yeah, I think even the All Blacks could probably handle more harder knocks than any American gridiron team. I think.
I would agree with that.
Because
I
I
used
think
to live
even
when I lived in New Zealand. I lived right down the road from Eden Park.
yeah. So
we could hear them.
so those if the American gridiron teams took off their gear, that'd be screwed. It's pretty much rugby. That's all it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or there's a sort of a class between, was it Australian? Was it that foosball that they play? But yeah, that with rugby is pretty much what American gridiron is. So
yeah. So
that's all good. But yeah. So what do you think about the Star Wars fandom at the moment? What's your?
I think that everyone is entitled to their opinion. I think that the Star Wars fandom doesn't have like an opinion problem. I think there's a problem with how we're choosing to express ourselves to each other.
Yeah.
And there's a level of like defensiveness that seems to just sort of like show up every time someone offers a criticism of a Star Wars show. And just to be absolutely clear, if you like something, you can criticize the hell out of it. There's no unwritten rule where like if you are a fan of something, you have to defend it to the death. You will be hard pressed to find a bigger fan of Star Wars than me, and I'll be the first to tell you if something doesn't seem right, or if like, oh, that was a weird decision, or like that looks kind of funky, because that's part of it. The critique is part of the experience. It's part of being a fan, and I think that when you grow up loving something and just like really like growing with Star Wars, you can develop like a feeling of ownership over it, like a sense of entitlement that isn't necessarily like founded, because I don't know, when you see someone else make a Star Wars show, it's like watching someone play with your Star Wars toys in front of you, and you're like, no, that's not how that works. He doesn't do that. He does this. And you kind of have to free yourself of that feeling if you want to have like a healthy relationship with the media. And if someone else comes in and says something critical about your favorite show, that isn't an obligation, nor is it necessarily an invitation to weigh in and be like, well, you're wrong and here's why. It's like, we all have opinions. Our opinions are subjective. No one is capable of stating an objective truth about the quality of Star Wars because it's subjective, and everyone has their own ratios and metrics by which they judge that quality. If you hate Star Wars, that's fine. If you love it, that's fine. There's no reason why those two people in that scenario can't still be good friends.
Yeah.
It's all about how we choose to express our opinions. So I think the Star Wars fandom is a wonderful thing. I think that there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily how should I put this, very well versed in polite conversation.
Yeah.
And their voices are just as loud as everybody else. So it can be kind of disheartening trying to discuss it in an online space because, it takes all kinds. But I think that there is a middle ground where we can respect each other and still fundamentally disagree on what Star Wars is and should be all about,
Yeah.
That's really all I have to say about the fandom. I try not to think about the divisive issues or like how much infighting and discourse happens. I try to just sort of stay outside of all of that because it really helps me just enjoy the show for what it is, which is some fun entertainment. And if you're thinking about it and trying to apply like hard science and hard logic to it, you're already doing too much. You're already wasting your own time.
Yeah. No, that's really true, actually. I think there's another fandom that sort of makes me think of the Star Wars fandom, which is it's pretty much the console wars, Xbox versus PlayStation.
Sure.
Exactly the same thing.
It's just your basic tribalism, you know. Our
Yeah,
side is better.
yeah.
And that's,
Uh,
that's part of the fun sometimes, like talk about rugby, like, it's a team sport. Part of it isn't just cheering for your guys, it's going fuck you to the other team, That's definitely part of the
yeah,
experience. And the same thing goes for Star Wars. Like, if something doesn't quite make sense, part of the fun is examining that logic and trying to figure out how it actually could work in universe.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
when a show makes a decision that like you can't even come up with some BS sci-fi logic for it, that is frustrating because that gets in the way of part of your fan experience, which is like thinking about it and coming up with your own like headcanon for what the thought process could have been behind that.
yeah.
Like Sabine getting stabbed with a lightsaber, for example. The
Mm.
the obvious conclusion to draw from that is that the writers wanted her to survive, so it doesn't really matter what happened. This is where the story's going. But
Yeah,
if someone wants to sit down and be like, well, what would a lightsaber do inside the body and how plausible is this? And
yeah,
try to
yeah,
apply like science and medical knowledge. It's like, that's great. That's how you have your fun, but it doesn't necessarily apply here. And
yeah,
definitely don't get upset if it doesn't make sense because we're
yeah,
talking about a fake wizard space show. So like,
yeah.
you've got to you got to be in the right mindset, I think, to truly appreciate it. If you're coming here for like hard hitting science fiction and like, I don't know, anything more substantive on like a scientific level, this might not be what you're looking for. This is a fantasy before it's a sci-fi. That's what I think. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
Sci-fi is the setting. It's not necessarily the genre.
yeah. No, I understand that as well. I think, yeah, it was mainly, yeah, I think everyone was getting there was there's a small amount of people that probably get a bit of a gripe when it comes to Sabine getting stabbed, and I think it's due
And I think
to,
that's valid. That's a fair.
yeah,
It's a fair criticism. If they wanted to create high stakes and danger for our character, they could have given her a good slashing, like Finn in The Force Awakens.
yeah,
It's a dangerous wound, but it's survivable. And then there's that question of, is she okay? But they kind of went too
mm,
far with the stab because it's like, well, that should have killed her, and now we have
yeah,
to explain away why it didn't. Why couldn't we just like knock her out or something instead? But like,
yeah,
that's like I said, that's part of the fun, right? Is
yeah,
critiquing these things that we love. And there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with it. And no one should feel the need to rush to the defense of $1 million TV show. You know,
yeah.
it can
I
defend itself
think,
just fine.
yeah, I think Reva was the catalyst behind that whole debacle with the stabbing. I think that was,
Which
I
is
think if,
ironic because I don't remember, because I was around when The Force Unleashed 2 came out. And I
yeah,
don't remember anyone raising a finger in protest when Starkiller got fully ran through, thrown into space, brought
for,
back in, and then he just got better. And people were like, okay, sure, why not?
but
But then when it happens to
yeah,
Reva, suddenly it's an issue. Suddenly we've got a
yeah,
problem
yeah,
with this. And so it's like, well, I feel like we're being kind of selective with our logic here, with where we feel like we need to apply it. And I
I
get that
think,
Force Unleashed is a video game and it's
yeah,
not
exactly,
canon.
yeah,
And this
exactly,
is canon and it's like this big high budget production, but the logic doesn't change. If we're going to get mad at one, we got to get mad at all of them, which sounds
yeah,
exhausting. Or we get mad at none of them and we just sort of have a
yeah.
good time. Those are our options here.
I think that it should have been, yeah. I think the TV shows and movies, like any, I mean the originals and the prequels and originals, made it rhyme with the whole cutting hands and everything like that. But I think they should do that sort of thing with the TV shows as well. If especially anything to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin, to either get your hand chopped off, leg cut off, or something to.
It's another one of those things that's kind of like in the DNA. The same with like
Yeah,
goofy rubber-headed aliens and like, a little bit of campiness, like that 1970s sensibility and
yeah,
chopping off your damn limbs. Like it's all part of the package.
yeah.
And I feel like we haven't had a good limb chopping in a minute. So we're overdue for
No,
that.
we haven't had a limb chopping with actual blood. We've never seen that since the originals. I think.
Well, not only
Yeah,
that, but I'm trying to think of a Disney era Star Wars character who's lost a hand.
true.
I can't think of one.
No, we
I don't
haven't.
think there's been one.
No, no, they've never done. They've done
We've
slash
lost a couple
getting.
heads.
Yeah, and Finn got his back.
He got a good back
slash.
slice on him.
Yeah, yeah.
But no one has lost an appendage and replaced said appendage with a robot limb, which is like the whole thing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the only thing that got replaced like an appendage would have been the stomach for what's her name? What's her name? The Fennec Shen, yeah. So she.
Yeah, that's true. She got all tricked out. That was pretty. Yeah. That was pretty awesome. Actually.
and the same with what's his name? The sheriff.
Cobb Vanth. You're right.
Yeah, Cobb Vanth. He's getting in the book of Boba Fett.
He's getting enhanced. He didn't lose a limb though. He just got shot. He got shot.
Yeah, he got shot. So I'm guessing he's probably going to be the same as like Fennec.
I can't wait. I can't wait for Robo Vanth. He's going to be great.
Yeah. So that'll be. I think he should have actually taken over the what was that spin-off show that
the Rangers of the New Republic?
Yeah, I think he should have taken over that. But
yeah,
then again,
he would be a good fit for that too.
They could still do it. They'd have to push the story along further though. So
they should still do it, and they should wait till after Ahsoka, and that way it can be Carson Teva and Hera and like someone from Skeleton Crew potentially, and just like create an A team out of our new shows, you know?
Yeah, that'd be.
I think that would be a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, having the three best females in the Mandalorian at the end of season 2 with Fennec and Cara Dune and
Bo-Katan.
Yeah, Bo-Katan as well.
And Koska. Koska was in there too.
Oh yeah, and Koska. Yeah, Koska Reeves. So that was pretty cool.
That was a good moment.
Yeah, that was really great actually. Yeah, that was the time. Yeah, that ending with seeing Luke come and save the day. That was
It was pretty fantastic. That was a moment, man. Before that, right up until he took that hood off, in the back of my mind, I was like, that's definitely Red 5. This looks a whole lot like Luke, but I still had like in my head, like, they can't show Luke Skywalker. It's just not a thing that they can do, you know? And so I really didn't believe that it was possible. And if you had asked me before that episode came out, if we would ever see Luke Skywalker as a young man on Disney Plus, I would have been like, you're insane. There's no way.
Yeah.
And now I don't know what's possible, man. Like anything could happen because we have the technology to do it.
Yeah.
Is it morally and ethically good? Debatable. But but the technology exists, and Lucasfilm has proved that they are willing to use it, you know? Like look at young Han Solo or young Indiana Jones, I should say, Harrison Ford, the new Indy movie. Like it's really gotten good in terms of quality. Yeah. Like it looks very, very convincing now. So they spent so much money developing this, you bet they're going to use it. They're going to use as much as they possibly can, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to bring back Han, Leia, and Luke in the movie, Ahsoka movie. Yeah, I think they will because they've already gotten.
Would be pretty sweet. Well, I would not mind if they recasted the main 3 and gave us like new actors so they could come back a bunch. But if they're gonna keep it brief, I can swallow a deep fake. I can make my peace with it.
Well,
I won't lie, it will still get me very excited as a Star Wars fan to see those 3 on screen. Like I'm not made of stone, you know.
Yeah, I think they could use what's her name? Leia's daughter, Carrie Ann Fisher's is it Carrie? Her
Billy Lord, yeah.
Yeah. So so great. That's so they could have her, they could have the guy who played the young Han Solo.
Alden Ehrenreich, right.
Yep. And they could still get...
I would take it. And they could the guy who did the body double for Luke. He looks just like him. Just get those two.
Yeah.
We've already got our trio. We're good to go.
Yeah. So that was really good. All right. Well, we're getting times sort of fleeting from us. So
it is getting kind of late over on this end. Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely should have another part 2 chat of.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This was really fun. I'd be happy to come back.
Yeah, so that would be pretty cool. And I do have an idea for getting a group of all of us from YouTube to sort of possibly Dupree and some other ones to just do a big group YouTube chat about Star Wars, and we just talk for
I love it. Yeah, count me in, man. That sounds like a fun time.
So yeah, so I'll definitely get that all sorted out. But yeah, we'll definitely have another chat on part 2, and because we definitely just touched the surface, scratched the surface, so to speak.
It's the tip of an iceberg that goes all the way down. There's so much to talk about in Star Wars, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
There's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, so it's we just only scraped the tip of the Coruscant's mountain.
So yeah, exactly.
So so that would be great. So I'll thank you very, very much for being on the show, and we'll definitely have another chat again. And before I go, for the viewers, how can they follow you? You
can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, pretty much wherever under the name Kyle Katarn. On YouTube, I'm Kyle Katarn. On Twitter and Twitch and Instagram, it's Kyle Katarn with a numeral 1 instead of an L. But that's easy enough. And also, if you find one of my sites, there's a link to all of my sites. So
yeah,
I'm around. You'll find me. I'm reacting to Ahsoka right now on the channel. The reactions are a lot of fun, actually. I'm noticing so many tiny little Easter eggs and things like that, catching references. It's a good time, so come check it out.
Yeah, so that's really good. And you've got a Discord channel for your own show on YouTube as well, don't you?
I do, yes. I've got a Discord channel with over 1,000 members in it. There's a link in the description of all my videos to the Discord. We do watch parties. We'll do hype sessions. I do a lot of streaming of multiplayer content for games like Star Wars The Old Republic and Squadrons.
Yep.
And we always use Discord for our multiplayer coordination. We'll use the comms from that. That's how you get an invite into our guild, etc. So yeah, Discord is really the best place to stay in touch. Not just with me, but the whole community. We're on there all the time.
Yeah.
Very active.
Yeah, so that's really good. All right, so that's all we have, and we will catch up next time, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome.